do it.
Okay. Let's do it. Okay. Just want to kind of get everybody together for the followers of the Facebook page. It's coming up on a 1-year anniversary from Dustin's transplant, and wanted to just kind of give everybody an update on what's going on with Dustin and Kinsey and Ben and Anna. And for those of you, I know their faces are really familiar to everyone that follows the page. For most of you, you don't know who I am. I'm Beth Bole, and I've kind of been behind the scenes of the page just through the whole process of finding a donor for Dustin and kind of giving everybody the update as the transplant was taking place. So this is the face behind all those crazy posts. And we're just I'm gonna let each of the folks kind of reintroduce themselves and say hi. And I know Dustin's got a couple of extra special people there that want to say hello as well.
Cool. Thanks, Beth. And I think it's a extreme understatement that you were just the face and the voice behind the Facebook group as well. So we owe you a lot for that. But with me, of course, is Ben. Say hi, Ben. Yeah. That's him. So welcome. And of course, Kinsey here as well. I think most that are on the group will know that as well.
That's my mom.
Yeah. And who am I?
Dad.
Yeah, that's right.
What have we been doing for the last year?
Doing fun stuff.
Fun stuff, yeah.
What about kindergarten?
Kindergarten was fun.
Yeah. How'd you do kindergarten this year? Online?
And I also got straight A's.
Yeah.
You did.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got straight A's last year and this year.
Well, we haven't started first
Well,
grade yet.
yeah, but technically, I think he's saying 1920, so he's counting twice.
Oh, okay. Is that how you count it?
No dance lessons, obviously, in this last year.
Yes, and then teach you some dance moves.
You're going to teach us all some dance moves. Okay. There you go. And he's actually not 6'7". He's just standing on a plyo box. So there you go.
Not 6'7" yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He will be 6'7", I'm sure.
He will certainly be 6'7". All right, give me number. Top of your bed. Love you.
We'll do a silly call soon.
You just
Tell the
silly call
girls
soon.
good night.
Bye.
Bye, Ben.
Talk to you later.
Some dance moves.
Yes, real quick. Go.
Don't fall.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was a really narrow place to go.
It is a
Yeah,
narrow
it
place
was.
to be.
It's a
Good
narrow
night.
Good night.
Well, thank you all. So I think that kind of leads to the question too of why I was so, after going to the Mayo Clinic and finding out what the difference was between having a live donor and a cadaver donor, why I was so eager to find living donors, because chances are better. And, that was it. It's my son. I want to be a rough and tumble dad. Of course, we had Ben when we were later in life. We're told we couldn't have kids. And then here he comes after we've been together, married 16 years and together 19. So I knew I needed to be ready for that. And so I am. So it's been wonderful. So.
Awesome. Well, Dustin, one of the questions that I have, that's a great segue into that. One of the things we really communicated, because the need was so urgent, we communicated a lot about your health concerns and your, just your poor health at the time a year ago. And so obviously the last year has allowed you to flourish, I believe. And so I guess I would just say kind of give the folks an update on how you're doing with your health, and then kind of what your daily life looks like.
I love my daily life, so we'll circle back to that. But as far as health goes, couldn't ask for better. It was within 3 or 4 months I was on a minimal dose of meds, the immunosuppressives that I couldn't be on. Usually that's something that you kind of, you start with a large amount and they work you down to see what the minimal you can affect, because of course they all have side effects and there's concerns there, but I went very quickly to my minimal dose and I've been very, very stable since. I credit a lot of that to being pretty healthy going in as I could be, obviously, before all the disease happened. And then also like being very structured in my routine and make sure I don't miss meds or anything like that. So I was able to kind of keep that very, very low, which is helpful. Like, usually you're on high dose steroids. I'm on 5 milligrams of prednisone a day. There's some talk in August I'll go off the prednisone. But of course, 5 milligrams at my size is not like, you're not going to get the symptoms that some other folks would. So that's negligible. So very happy there. The actual immunosuppressives, we've had some drug changes, but otherwise it's been fine. I do lab works it was every week, then it was every 2 weeks, then it was every month, and now I'm on every 3 months. So I've evolved from 2 months to 3 months just recently. So I don't go back for lab work until, every 2 months I do lab work, and then doctor's appointments every 3 months now is what I do. So by all those standards, good. On way more meds than I thought I would be. A lot of blood pressure meds, just because they hit it from a bunch of different angles because it's really hard to regulate. But that's something new to me. But other than that, small price, just organize my meds for the week, got them ordered. That's it. That's part of my life now is a little different. Of course, came from the fitness background and all that. And we had the Silverleaf Shotgun Sports and we sold it in 2018. Amidst of all this, I work for a company called Quincy now. So quickly after transplant, I looked at I need to do something because I need benefits because I was self-pay and I was always self-employed. So I was paying for my own insurance. I'm like, I need to get somewhere where I can get some insurance to cover this cost because it's like $3,000 to $5,000 a month if I don't have insurance. So I was like, well, let's figure out something. So I started looking at software sales after some recommendations, did a training program, did pretty well on it, and then got within 5 weeks, had a job. And they actually found me, despite me putting out so many applications, they found me and I got hired and stuff. We got it worked out. But what Quincy does is we work with higher education. We have an AI product named Quinn, which is really cool. So I get to work in AI, which is something I'm very interested in. And really what I do all day is explain that the evil robots aren't going to take over society. And so it alleviate fears. And so started off as kind of sales role, and now I'm second in the company and go through. Because it's a startup, moves quick, so I wear many hats, which is something I'm familiar with. It feels very much like small business I've been involved my whole life. And so with that comes I get to have really, really tight control of my schedule. Those that know me know that I get up stupid early in the morning. Like I get up at 3:42 in the morning, pretty regularly, somewhere between 3:30 and 4. Right now it's 3:42 is what my alarm is set. I don't have to have the alarm, but I do that so I can get my meditation in and my training in before I start my work at 4:30 in the morning. And I work, pretty focused from 4:30 to 7:30, and then I take a break. And it's pretty regimented. Of course, things happen, then happens. But it's okay. We have some systems in place for that. But I'm working completely remote, which is great for my health, especially in the current COVID world. So what you're seeing now, this is where I stand most of the time, most of the day. And then I do that, take breaks throughout the day, train a little more, which I'm clear to do any training I want. It's a little different, slightly different body. For those of the kettlebell world, I can't do right heavy windmills because it feels way, way too weird because it feels like I'm pushing a kidney. Because then, of course, the kidney transplant, the one that donated is in the left front. And so any kind of moving that way. But otherwise, movement's been great, strength's been good. And just trying to
Do you find that most people don't know that? I find that most people don't know that they don't take your kidneys out and put the new kidney in.
Yeah, they don't. Most people don't know that, and most people think that's the weirdest part of it. I kind of think the weirdest part of it is like having somebody else in me, but that's something else. So, I could do worse. So no offense, but do a lot worse. But but a lot of folks don't know that.
It is a weird thing.
And so but no, health is great. Schedule, I love it because I get to control my own schedule, and then I get to talk for a living, which if you didn't know before this call, I don't have a problem doing. So
that's why I only have 3 questions. And you've already answered 2 of them with the answer to the first. So. I knew I didn't need to prepare a lot. And you kind of alluded to this a little bit just with your schedule and being pretty regimented in your self-care, but you really are an inspiration and an example of resiliency through a lot of difficult times. A lot of people would not move as gracefully as you have. And so what do you give credit to for that?
I have a philosophical bent, so I think some of the wisdom traditions that I studied before gave me kind of a lot of balance, and like the timing was ideal, so it kind of put me at a state where I was receptive to listening. So whether like my Buddhism studies that I've done in the past, or more recently I was really into Stoicism, so that's really helped. So there's that kind of thing about looking at those aspects and proving it true, because it's easy to like read about it and feel good about it and like sit in Barnes and Noble and flip through the book and like put it back and pick up another one and flip through. But putting those in practice was different. But to be honest, that helped. But that's kind of after the fact. That's kind of like after the incident, you look back and go, okay, what did I practice? Oh, I must have done that kind of technique or thought process. But no, it's actually really simple. In 2014, right after, May of 2015, I went into the hospital because related to the kidney disease, but I actually got an infection. From the infection, I got sicker because I got a C. diff, and I got antibiotic resistant C. diff. So I was in the ISO ward, so Ben's less than a year old. I'm in the ISO ward, and my parents, have to bring me to the hospital. No one's allowed to see me. And they wheel the bed, Kinsey and one of the nurses wheel the bed close to the window. And I have to like lean up and over the window to see my kid in a stroller 4 stories down.
Mm.
That's it. So I had to make a decision right then. And so then after that, it was just like not looking at the big picture. Okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Because you'll drown if you look at the big picture. Because especially with kidney disease, the system, and I'm not saying like it's engineered this way, but I'm saying it did rise this way, is that it's really easy just to give up. Like if you want to be on dialysis and go watch TV for 3 hours while they feed you candy, 4 to 5 times a week, you can do that. Auto disability, all these things. So the system's not really rigged for you to like recover from that, and that's not a place of healing. Love the nurses, nothing but respect for the nurses, but it's like having surgery at a bus stop 3 times a week, as I've told you guys many times, and that I had to do a lot of reframing around that. I stopped calling it dialysis for a long time.
Yeah.
Our purification ritual, all that. But I think it's just a culmination of that. But the philosophy helped. I would like to credit that as kind of like setting the stage, if you will. But really, I can trace it back to that one single moment of going like, am I going to be here for this kid or am I not?
So really, you found your why.
Yeah, it was right then. I mean, it was very automatic. And then I was just like, what's the next thing I have to do? And then there was a series of those kind of moments of like, well, what am I going to do? And so you don't have time to like stew and worry, it's just like, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Mm-hmm. Well, that kind of segues into my first question for Anna. Anna, you were very, very determined, like a dog on a bone, to be a donor for Dustin. And I guess I would say, what's your biggest takeaway from that process of going through, kind of jumping the hoops, being that determined, kind of what kept you going with that, and what was your biggest takeaway?
Oh gosh, there's so many takeaways. I like looking back and just observing how I went through the process, and just kind of being surprised at that it happened the way it did, and that I acted the way I did, and that I was as sure as I was from the very beginning. And I'm an advocate for living donors. I think it's a wonderful thing, but I'm a cautious advocate because you really have to know what you're getting into. And at the same time, you can't know what you're getting into when you start the process. So it's you have to educate yourself. But when you get to that point where you say, this is something that I can do and I feel like I'm meant to do it, nothing's going to stop you. Mm-hmm. Which also can mean, if you haven't educated yourself and really made an informed choice at that point, you're going to block out anything that might talk you out of it. So looking back on it, even going through it, it seems simple to me. Like I was, as I've written about before, my brother's a nephrologist, so I knew about living donation. And I was inspired by a local story here. And then I had heard about Dustin's case and friends had posted things, about what a wonderful guy he was, and I'd heard his name, but I didn't know him. And then I went to the support page, which you made, and two things stuck with me there. One is the picture of Dustin and Ben on the jungle gym, which I think is, was the cover photo at one point.
It was.
And the other was that you had said he needs a kidney. So like a very direct post that I just read it, and I said, I was kind of curious, maybe I could do this thing. And then when I read that post, I was like, well, I guess it's time to step up and see if I can do this thing. But yeah, I guess the biggest takeaways are once you see that thing you can do, you just do it. It's there. You figure out your whys, you figure out what's motivating you, and then just execute the plan. Don't let anything deter you. So we did go through quite a few hurdles. We went through three different hospitals, several rounds of testing. And that was all before we met. Our blood met before we met because they had to see if we were a match. That was in March, and then we finally met in April when I came up to Oklahoma City for testing.
Actually, the three of us met for the first time, I think. Well, I mean, I knew Beth, of course, but like you, Anna met Beth and I at the same time, right?
Yeah. Very same time.
You brought up that one particular Facebook post, and that was preceded by a conversation between Dustin and I. And I said, all this is great. We got people, giving money, and we've got people saying prayers and all that. I think my mother was praying 3 times a day. And
I still appreciate it, man. No worries.
And we were in this conversation. We had been to a fitness kind of workshop over in Tulsa. We were driving back, and I remember it very well. And I said, we just need to be real blunt. We just need to say, dadgummit, somebody's got to give a kidney. You need a kidney. And he said, I think he thought it was self-serving. Yeah. He said, I don't think I can do that. And I said, well, I can. And my tenets that I try to live by truly is, I will ask for what I need. And that was what I had in my head when I made that post. And so if we ever doubt the ripple effect of our words, this is an example of that. Because I didn't know you, and you didn't know me. And yet
and I don't know. I mean, it's very easy to see a situation where I think I could help, but somebody else will do it. Somebody that's closer will do it. Somebody, surely something else will happen. And then you get distracted because there's so many other things in the world that you can do.
Exactly.
But it just was timely, and direct, and met something that I felt like, well, I can do that.
Awesome. And we're really glad you did.
I am too.
And I think one of the amazing things in the last year, Anna, from the distance that I am from you, has been really great to observe. You had a very, I'm not going to say quick physical recovery, but you had a very
determined
and a very planned recovery and focused. And you had some amazing feats that have happened to you in your training in the last year. So tell us a little bit about how you recovered and kind of some of those accomplishments that you have.
That felt very methodical. It looks like I did everything fast. It didn't feel fast at the time, but it also didn't feel like I was holding back. I felt like I had really good advice because I followed the doctor's orders. The first 6 weeks, no lifting at all. And so I walked, pretty much all I did was walk the first 3 weeks. And then the next 3 weeks, I was back in the gym, but I didn't handle any weights. It was just sort of moving, rocking, unweighted get-ups, single leg deadlifts with no weight, squats with a PVC bar, just moving. But it felt like training because that was about as hard as my body wanted to go at that point. I won't show my scar, but I'll show where it is. But the cut for the kidney is from here to here. They did an open nephrectomy. Most people have a laparoscopic where they just poke a few holes and somehow they get the kidney out of a 3-inch incision. But mine was an open because they chose to take the right kidney. And
giant kidneys too, so that helped.
Yeah. So it turned out better because it had some weird veins and stuff, so that gave them the best chance to transplant it well to Dustin. So, and I love the scar too. I don't know why I have the scar, but the weird thing was they didn't cut my muscles. They just like retracted them all. So they got definitely out of place. They're like still getting back into place now, but they work pretty well. Anyway, 6 weeks, at the 6 week point, I was allowed to start lifting weights again. So I just started low weight, and just slowly progressed back up. And that was going so well. At the 4 month point, the Strong First Tactical Strength Challenge was coming up, and I said, I'm pretty sure I got my deadlift back. I'll see how I do. And went up to Birmingham to Jody Beasley's gym and competed in the TSC in the Masters division because I'm over 50, and got the top score in the Masters division. I was able to deadlift 300 pounds. So 300 pounds at 4 months post-op, I was pretty happy with that.
That is pretty amazing. Yeah. You should be happy with that.
I was happy. I was really happy for him. I was also really jealous because I didn't get to start lifting again until January. So
yeah,
I did hear some whining from him about the fact that you were training and he wasn't. Yes, I recall that.
But the first thing he got to pick up was Ben, so that's great.
It was.
That's the best thing. You mentioned this a little bit already, Anna, but you've been a very strong advocate, like you said, for people becoming kidney donors. What else would you like to say to them, to people that are going to see this video, to encourage them to pursue it, to look at it? I know you commented to me, and I don't think I'm breaking a confidence here, but we were communicating through Messenger recently, and you said you had seen a picture of Dustin in the hammock he got for his birthday from Ben, and you said that made you proud that he looks healthy. That really has to be a great feeling. So is that just part of what? Is that part of what you think people could consider when they're looking at a kidney donation?
Just to have that impact on another person's health is an amazing thing. I mean, the whole transplant process is amazing. The history of transplant surgery is amazing, and it was just super cool to be a part of that. I think that, if people understand they can share their health this way, it's a lot like blood donation in that way. Like, you don't get anything when you donate blood, right? There's no advantage, there's no health benefit, but you can easily do it. It doesn't hurt you, and you know that it's a necessary thing and somebody else needs that blood. So it's very much the same. It's just a bigger deal. It's not quite people use the phrase share your spare with kidneys, and other people are not so big on that phrase because it's really not a spare. It's just that we have a lot of excess kidney capacity. And so one is almost always plenty for a healthy person to do the whole job. And my brother helped me really understand that, and not have anxiety about that for the rest of my life. But the biggest thing that somebody could do to look into it is join a Facebook group. There's a Facebook group for living kidney donors, and you get, instantly, or over the course of a few weeks, lots of perspective about people that are just starting the process, that are midway through, that are on their way into surgery, that have, went through it a year ago, went through it 20 years ago, the whole gamut, their concerns, their questions, and there are a few that have complications. So it's a way to open your eyes to, oh, I didn't think about that could happen. Complications are just, drama or whatever that might occur from the process. That just makes you think through, okay, am I really in for all of this? And because you have to be committed to that degree. Like, most of the time, as a transplant surgeon told me, most of the time this works out extremely well, but not 100% of the time. So, but that's life. So you assess the risk and you make the good decision. And it certainly has worked out well. I don't think there's anything that could have worked out better, for either one of us. So we're very lucky.
Well, you're not going to be here for the anniversary. That sucks. But other than that.
Yeah, I know.
That's the only thing. That's about the only negative I could think of. So there you go.
I was so determined to be up there in Tulsa, and
I'll tag.
Life is definitely not back to normal here because nothing's normal right now.
Nothing's normal.
Yeah.
Something comes to mind from that too. Like I'd like to tag in, like on the potential recipient side or the kidney patient side, besides keeping their health. Of course, with mine was Bergera's disease, so it was a little different, it wasn't diabetic nephropathy or something, but regardless, you need to kind of find your champions, and you also need to find perspective, because we went to, like Anna said, I went to 3 different hospitals. I won't name names here, but very different experience at all 3. Also, the nephrologists that you speak to will have very different perspectives on what you should and shouldn't do and how you should do it. I'm not saying that it's bad, good, but like it is a perspective. So I won't say shop around, but I would do my research as well. I don't know if I'd recommend a Facebook group per se, but I definitely would get like second opinions and see what the options are, because things are changing as well. So
Yeah.
I won't probably say Facebook group things very much, but I do appreciate the one we're talking to now. So
Yeah, some people just dropped off of Facebook last year. I don't know what happened there.
yeah. Wonder why. Weird. Very polarizing time. Very polarizing time. Yeah.
It is.
Well, I don't really have any other questions for you guys. I just kind of wanted to ask you if there's anything else you wanted to share with the followers of the Facebook page. I know I wanted to say just a thank you to them, because they did support you tremendously through donations to the Swing-a-thon, the GoFundMe, again, positive energy, prayers, all of that will never be taken for granted. So a huge
Yes, absolutely. The funds raised helped me come up for the testing visit. You know, driving up to Oklahoma City, you got 3 solid days of testing. Driving back home, those funds paid for that trip and helped pay for my husband Dale. He came with me for surgery. You know, his time off work, and so very helpful.
Yeah, that is something, my insurance pays for the donor's time in hospital, but very, very little else, like travel expenses and stuff like that, or, caregiver, which she's required to have. So, a significant portion of those funds went to like making sure that was not a burden on your donor. So that's something to consider as well. But it's a weird system. Hopefully it's improving. We're doing our best to kind of like stay advocates for making it a better option for folks, because I don't think people realize that it's something that can be done easily. Shortly after this, we kind of started this kind of kidney coach program, right, where we're talking to folks about, if they want to have any information about if they're a donor or recipient or the family, or even, we had some nephrology nurses, or we had some dialysis nurses I talked to, all those things. In those sessions, it's like, again, the system's kind of geared towards kind of giving up. And so just having an outlet to kind of see, well, if there's other options, and then you should probably look at exercising those if you want to. So it's just, I don't know.
It's hard for patients to ask. I see, on the other, one of the other Facebook groups that's also for transplant recipients, it's really hard to ask. So getting a Beth in your corner is huge. Somebody to ask for you, and put those words together.
So someone told me I need a social media champion, and like, Sadiqa Hamden, we should thank her as well. She was early on, started the GoFundMe and all that as well. And then, Beth and I were close before and during all this, and then just asking, like, you need a champion that's not you. And for this very reason, because she can ask the things that I wouldn't ask, right? Before I got a little more educated, I was dedicated to getting a donor, but I was like, I'll just wait for a cadaver, because I don't want to be beholden to anybody or anything. Like, it was just weird, right? And I had several donors step forth, and it was the third that got tested. And so, my sister-in-law, Robin, she came forward. We found out on Christmas Eve, after she had gone out of state for testing, that she could not, that it wouldn't be best for her health. Thankfully, it wasn't something that was life threatening at the moment or anything like that, just long-term health they were concerned. So found out that she wouldn't be a donor. I have a friend from Dallas that she went and got tested and found out kind of mid to late stage that she wasn't going to be a donor. And so we had a few more folks step forward, but didn't get through the process or anything like that. So it was a wild ride, but I got the right one, so it was good. So.
Well, I am glad that for once my bold use of words came in handy.
Yeah.
It was like, it seemed like joining.
It wasn't
a team,
it's not the
too,
first
because,
time it
like,
was handy, but it was by far my favorite use of your words. So,
I could tell though that it was Beth and it was Kenzie and it was Sadiqa and it was the whole Strong First team and everybody that did the swing-a-thon, and, like it was joining a team effort. It was like, there's the keystone in the bridge is one of the images that came to me. Like, there's this whole team out there building the bridge. They just need that keystone. They just need the kidney. I got the kidney.
Yeah. Well, anything else you guys want to add or share or?
I don't know if I can now. I think I'm pretty wrapped. So.
Okay. Well, just want to say again to the folks watching that we appreciate you guys as well, and love both of you guys, Dustin, Anna, and
Love you guys too. Thank you so much. I'm just
Thank you guys.
so glad that I got to know both of you and you're in my life.
amen.